Introduction. Welcome everyone to today's video, where we will be discussing the devastating drought in the Horn of Africa. According to a recent study, this drought wouldn't have been as severe and widespread if it wasn't for the human-induced impacts of climate change. Let's take a closer look. Body. The drought in the Horn of Africa has so far affected around 50 million people in the region directly and another 100 million in the wider area. About 20 million people are at risk of acute food insecurity and potentially famine. The Horn of Africa has experienced 5 consecutive seasons of below normal levels of rainfall, which coupled with higher temperatures due to climate change has caused the soil and pastures in the region to dry out. The study, conducted by the World Weather Attribution Group of scientists, determined that in a world that was cooler by 1.2°C, a drought of this magnitude wouldn't have occurred. According to their conservative estimates, the drying conditions in the Horn of Africa were made 100 times more likely due to human-induced climate change. Friederike Otto, a senior lecturer in climate science at the Grantham Institute for Climate Change and the Environment, puts it this way: this study shows very strongly that drought is much more than just the lack of rain, and that the impacts of climate change strongly depend on how vulnerable we are. One of the main findings from the recently published Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Synthesis report is that we are way more vulnerable than we thought. The study also found that climate change was increasing some rainfall during certain times in the region, but significantly decreasing rainfall during others, posing a double-edged sword for the population. Joyce Kimutai, the principal meteorologist and climate scientist at the Kenya Meteorological Department, also weighed in on the situation. The findings of this study show that frequent multi-year droughts, compounded with heat extremes in the main rainy season, will severely impact food security and human health in the Horn of Africa as the climate continues to warm. However, it's important to note that food shortages and potential famine are never solely the result of weather, but are also influenced by the vulnerability of people and the resources at their disposal. As Sheikh Kane, a climate resilience policy advisor at the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center points out, people in the Horn of Africa are no strangers to drought, but the duration of this event stretched people beyond their ability to cope. 5 consecutive seasons of below normal rainfall combined with rain-dependent livelihoods and vulnerability multipliers like conflict and state fragility have created a humanitarian disaster. Conclusion. So there you have it. The devastating drought in the Horn of Africa is yet another example of how climate change is adversely affecting our planet, and how populations all over the world are suffering its consequences. If we don't take drastic measures to reduce emissions, the situation is only likely to get worse.